Hello, guys. It's Mo and Fry in the morning, and we are trying one more again. Let's see if the internet will work and not be an a-hole. Look, Elon, I love you. Look, I'm not I am willing to talk to Mr. Mo about the possibility of having one of your crazily named children for Starlink. Talk to me and talk to me. I am willing to haggle with Mr. Mo about having cosine tangent Messiah, your 16th child for Starlink. We are willing to have this discussion. Mr. Mo said he is willing to negotiate for Starlink. So th- you know, the ball is in your court, Mr. Musk. 16th child in world domination is in your court for Starlink to help a sister out. But in first and most important news, the pettiest state in the union has been found out. And if it is not Indiana, the home and, uh, you know, birthplace of not only past, present, and future empress of the pettyverse, myself, then I will be just completely crushed. Let's see where America's pettiest state is. I found this morning and I could not be dissuaded from adding it to last night's information. So let's see where America is most petty, because if it is not Indiana, I will be crushed. And they did not do their research. Hello, Kaiser. Hello, Gigi. Hello, Christine. Hello, Reindeer. And I apologize yesterday. Rural internet just stinks the big one. We have Xfinity. Look, the line people do their best. They work hard. They do their best to get the internet back on. The children did not descend into Lord of the Flies, which is always helpful. We didn't turn Amish, which is also helpful. They are all still alive. Good morning, Carlene. So, you know, we are all still alive, but it was touch and go for a little bit there because no internet. What were the children to do? MNHS 6, good morning. Before I go, good morning. So thanks for joining me all. But let's find out where the pettiest state is. And if it's not Indiana, I will be sad. Worried about incurring the wrath of a New Yorker after cutting them off in rush hour traffic? Forget about it. Exacting revenge against someone over a minor offense is apparently déclassé to the dignified workers of Gotham, according to the September 2023 study, which found that New York ranked in the top 5 of the least petty states in the US. Quote, for a city that never sleeps, New Yorkers are surprisingly laid back. Friberto, how you manage to get just slightly out of scene or out of focus on every single he's like, "I have a talent." New Yorkers are surprisingly laid back, lead researcher Anna Osborne, who conducted the probe on behalf of Canadian betting site Casino CA, told the Post. Our nationwide survey reveals that the petty antics aren't their style. The heart of Dixie, however, apparently is lacking heart. Oh, Southern women. Uh, well, good luck and have a wonderful Wednesday, MNHS 6. I hope that you have a good day and, try not to be too petty at work or be petty at work. I mean, you know, it it depends on if you're in Alabama. Look, Alabama reigned supreme as the state with the highest level of pettiness, according to Osborne's survey, which revealed that 96 of the respondents said they were copped being plagued with a propensity towards getting payback. Oh, y'all didn't bless your heart. Butter would not melt. Oh my gosh. Nevada, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee, Illinois, Arkansas filled out the other top slots on the maliciousness list. Y'all, there is a lot of kill them with kindness in southern states. If you have someone that is being sickly sweet to you, they are being mean to you. Just as a little tip. I mean, Indiana isn't strictly Southern, but just as a friendly little tip for you, for those of us with slightly Southern roots. If we are being sickly, saccharine sweet to you, it is generally a fictional niceness. I will I will pray for rain. The boys are off. The youngest and most feral are off for fall break. So if you hear um, shouting, they are enjoying each other's company as brothers can only do. Conversely, although not a state, the District of Columbia is the less petty in the US. Okay, who paid for this study? And Canadian taxpayer, oh, well, it's a betting site. Um, I'm gonna have to say I don't agree with the scientificology of this this particular site. I am saying that the pettiness of the site is heavily weighted because the District of Columbia is not petty. Have we seen any CNN? Have we seen any sort of political discourse lately? Oh, they only polled 3,000 Americans. Well, yeah, Indiana is just a weird place in general, and definitely, Kaiser, we need to get on, Indiana weirdness is definitely a thing we need to get into, but since pettiness of 3,000 people is not a scientific study that I will get into, and I will be petty about their scientific method because they just did not do their due diligence, I believe. We are gonna go into the Ruby Frankie article that we were trying to do. Well, no, most people are genuinely sweet. I'm just for people that are not from the South, if you get a Southern woman who you have the sinking suspicion she might be being mean to you and she's being saccharinely sweet to you, she is might could be mean to you. If she is saying bless your heart and oh sweetie and a lot of things, that is some pettiness. But that's just me. I'm just letting you know. So let's see here. We were talking about Jody Hildebrandt running a cult. Now, we were at the part where several of her former patients were talking about how she didn't want you talking to anyone outside of the truth. And in my personal experience with cults, if someone starts calling themselves the truth, the science, or the anything, that is where you say, I'm going to cut and run. Now, personally, when I start labeling myself a church for tax purposes, I will not be labeling myself anything. Well, but there's levels to it. I think you can tell when someone's being sarcastically sweet, but then there are some people that are just genuinely sweet. Maybe if you're born into it, you can tell the difference. That's it. Hire Mo for your saccharinely sweet and genuinely sweet Southern detection. If you need a detector of saccharinely sweet and just genuinely Southernly sweet, I will be here. I will listen to your conversations and I will tell you which ones are which for a nominal fee. Free for my members and, for a nominal fee for non members when I get monetized. um, but according to a lot of her again, I still need to know what a certified mental fitness trainer is, and I have that on my list of things. Well, so does my my great Gigi, my Gigi, she calls everyone sweetheart, sweetie, and darling. You can tell a genuineness when people have a real genuineness to it, and then you can tell the saccharine sweetness of someone who doesn't. But I think you had to be kinda raised in it too, because there's a tonal I don't know. Maybe it's something you had to be raised in, I don't know, 'cause Thank you, Kaiser. Hey, Sal. And speaking of Sal, while I'm all discombobulated and Friberto, I don't know why I even put you on the screen sometimes. Um, while I'm talking about Sal, uh, uh, we will be doing the closing statements. Now, in just to screw with Mo, I think, they had the closing statements live yesterday, live, of course they did, and, they put them on. I will be doing at least the state's opening, closing statement probably around 2 o'clock this afternoon, and then I will hop on to help EU and Sal for a little bit, and then I have a kids party unless it gets rained out because it is outside, and we are supposed to have more rain, but no storms. Hopefully, my internet will stay up. We will pray to all the internet gods. I will smudge around my monitor or whatever the thing is, the modem thingy, and we will do, all of that. And, hopefully, I will be able to join them since it is fall break for a little bit, as we are going through closing statements. Had I known that they were going to do them live yesterday, I would have tried to catch them then, but as soon as I realized they were doing them, I thought, "Oh, for the love of Cheetos, I'll just do them later with Sal." So, you know, it it is what it is, but basically oh, all of the former patients, there seems to be a typical pattern with Hildebrandt. Well, I saw live, or at least they were doing raw footage, of some of them, but you know, Law and Cry they need to figure out a system because it was kind of a little bit higgledy-piggledy, to use a Southern word. It was a little all over the place. So, some former male clients say they were treated indiscriminately for prawn addiction, if you will. A primary focus in Hildebrandt's program, specifically for men in her treatment, concerned prawn and sex addiction, which is odd because Ruby's child apparently was addicted to prawn from a young age as she was shaming mothers for having, their young children use devices, and she was all about her children not having personal space or anything like that, as you do, you know, as it were, my kids don't have personal space because I'm a good mom and I don't let them watch the internets. Hildebrandt previously worked as a therapist specializing in prawn addiction. Prawn addiction is not recognized as a disorder in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or the DSM-5, the standard classification manual used by mental health counselors in the United States. Although the LDS Church encourages people to seek help from LDS-sponsored addiction recovery programs if they struggle from pornography consumption. Um, it's considered a huge sin by the church and even perceived by some as a gateway to serious crimes like murder, according to John Dellin, a former therapist and host of the podcast Mormon Stories, which brings awareness to the issues within LDS culture. He said LDS members are taught that men are sexual animals and women are the gatekeepers. Dellin interviewed several former patients of Hildebrandt's and reviewed connections materials for his podcast. 5 men told NBC News that they were diagnosed with prawn or sex addictions by Hildebrandt, although all of them said they didn't exhibit any abnormal issues with either. They said they were put into men's counseling groups that focused on porn, sex, and lust. Group counseling involved weekly hour-long meetings and daily support calls. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine being shamed for normal biological urges? I mean, let's be honest here. As a woman, I notice an attractive guy, I'll look at him and I'll see him but I'm gonna go home to Mr. Mo and stay married to Mr. Mo. I'm joking about Elon Musk having his child for Starlink. It's obviously a joke. I'm sure Jody would have thrown holy water on me and run away, and I would have had to join a circus or convent or something. But you cannot. uh, treating something biological as a sin leads to a lot of problems. I don't know a whole lot about the LDS faith. I don't know how they treat sexuality, but if that is how if LDS members are truly taught that men are just sexual creatures that can't be controlled at all, and then women are supposed to kinda keep them in, the straight and narrow, then I guess this is how I guess this is how you're taught to deal with it, but it seems awfully sad that you would have to deal with you would have to be unfortunately treated like urges that are normal that, again, you would have to practice self-control with are terrible and horrible and make you a terrible, bad human being. Now, of course, you see Jody, and I had to learn the horror of what soaking is, and I did, of course, tell Mr. Mo, and he laughed hysterically, and he's like, "What the actual heck?" Well, yeah, there are a lot of things I disagree with, personally, but this is not that show. So, Spencer Tibbets, who described his childhood as extremely sheltered with little access to technology, was sent to Hildebrandt for 2 months when he was 16 after getting in trouble for obtaining a secret phone to play video games. Hildebrandt moved him from her children's group to her men's group so that he could have more in-depth information or conversations about his treatment goals. The men's group participants were being treated for porn addictions. I had a secret phone, but I didn't even know what porn was, Tibbets, now 21, said. Tibbets said during support calls, men in the group would describe how they'd been separated from their wives because they struggled with porn consumption. Tibbets said on one call, a group member discussed family fantasies with him. Tibbets said Hildebrandt told him if he didn't accept the Mormon God, he would never be able to get help from therapy. At the time, he was questioning his faith after his father had given him a choice to attend church or not. Brian Tibbets, 47, father of Spencer Tibbets, said he also saw Hildebrandt with his ex-wife for about 4 months in early 2018. He said his choice to leave the LDS church caused strain in their relationship. They placed their 3 eldest children in Hildebrandt's courses. Tibbet's ex-wife did not respond for comment. Hildebrandt had previously been disciplined by Utah's officials. In 2012, Hildebrandt was disciplined by Utah's Division of Occupational and Professional Licensing, according to documents obtained by NBC News. This is actually the first kind of really in-depth that has gone into a lot of this, sort of stuff. I do like how they actually have gotten different people because a lot of the different, law sites that we have hasn't gotten kind of this in depth. So this is actually a pretty good article. I was, um, kind of shocked. I have been kind of shocked with this article. Let's see here. She was put on probation for 18 months by the state after she engaged in quote unquote unprofessional conduct. Hildebrandt disclosed information about a patient identified as John Doe with LDS leaders and Brigham Young University officials, according to a 2021 stipulation and order by a report of DOPL obtained by NBC News. Doe was a student at BYU at the time. She also had a dual relationship with the patient's wife, Jane Doe, whom she was counseling and managing as an intern. So that is so, so ethically wrong. She should not have an internship relationship, a sort of boss, uh, employee relationship and be counseling this person. That the incredible amount of power she had over the wife, as far as not only boss, employee relationship, but also therapist, that is totally scary. And one day I will probably get into a story time where, that happened to me as well, unfortunately, and it it is terrifying how much a person with that amount of power can really get into your head and screw with your mind. So that is unethical to the point of she should probably, in my opinion, have had her license yanked. The amount of mental damage that that can do, I mean, it has turned me off of therapy for a long time. Hildebrandt was taken off the LDS Family Services roster after her license was put on probation, according to the 2012 report from the Salt Lake Tribune. But some of the patients told NBC News she was still informally recommended to them by either their bishops or loved ones in the church after being removed from the roster. Adam Paul Steed, 20, who saw Hildebrandt with his then wife. I do like how every single person in this pattern, it was their then wife. For 9 months in 2008, said that he isn't the unnamed patient in the report that led Hildebrandt to be put on probation. He said that Hildebrandt tried to treat him for sex and porn addiction after he started marriage counseling, but he refused. NBC News reviewed the DOPL complaint, naming Steed, therapy notes from Steed's sessions with Hildebrandt, and honor code report from BYU. Steed said Hildebrandt made false claims about him to the church, BYU, and his ex-wife. He said he lost church privileges and was temporarily suspended from BYU and got a divorce due to Hildebrandt's actions. My family got destroyed. He said, my life got destroyed. Steed, who experienced childhood sexual abuse as a teen, said that Hildebrandt weaponized his experience with abuse against him. His marriage began to deteriorate around 9 months into seeing Hildebrandt, who had insisted the couple needed to triple down on the amount of therapy sessions they were taking. Quote, Hildebrandt was blaming everything on me being a sexual addict at that point, she said. Quote, she was saying that every time I said I was a victim of sexual abuse, that it was my addiction speaking. So if I had PTSD and trauma and I mentioned it, they would confront me and say it was my addiction of sexual abuse. Then when they began seeing Hildebrandt, he believed his ex-wife began feeling like she had to protect herself and her children from him. Steed's ex-wife declined to comment, though her attorney, Chris Wharton, who said, quote, out of respect for the judicial process and the best interest of the party's minor children, my client will not be providing any further comments at this point. Some former female patients say Hildebrandt shamed them for their views. Stephanie Jones, 29, said a bishop in her church referred her and her then husband to Hildebrandt in 2029. Why is the church continuing to send places? Look, if the church is all about marriage and keeping marriages together, and this woman just seems to have a track record of like breaking marriages up, at some point the bishops are going to be like, look, this woman doesn't seem to be keeping these marriages intact. I mean, your track record, ma'am, seems to be undoing marriages. You're the worst marriage counselor ever. Um, after she alleged he had been physically and emotionally abusive towards her. At first, Jones said she loved Hildebrandt's program because it was the first time she learned about boundaries and codependency. She later felt the group counseling sessions were not helpful in addressing the abuse in her relationship. Her ex-husband, like the men in Hildebrandt's program, was treated for lust addiction. Well, as long as you have only one solution for every problem. Quote, I don't feel like she helped with what we were actually there to get help with, Jones said. Jones said Hildebrandt kept her ex-husband, or Jones said Hildebrandt helped keep her ex-husband, quote, in line, but when she told Hildebrandt she wanted to leave him, the therapist would encourage her to stay. Quote, I do feel like she prolonged me staying with him because his behavior did genuinely improve when we were seeing her, but I think it was just because he didn't want to get in trouble. Well, that's encouraging. Jones's ex-husband, who is currently incarcerated for unrelated aggravated assault, confirmed through his attorney, Joseph Rupp, that he was put into a group for sex, lust, and porn addiction. The lawyer said his client, quote, believes that Stephanie might characterize their relationship as physically or emotionally abusive, end quote, but the client did not specify. The ex-husband confirmed via Rupp that Hildebrandt encouraged them to stay together. Jones said that in the women's group, women without other forms of mental health diagnosis were treated for control addiction. What the actual crap is this woman? This woman is insane. There is no. All right. Okay, there is no such thing as control addiction. This woman is making stuff up. Control addiction is not recognized as a disorder. Jones said that an example of her addiction is when she tried to appease her husband when she was scared of him. She was told that she was trying to control his emotions so she didn't get hurt. Hello, unbronzed Aussie Laura. Good morning. Yeah, no, that's called just being afraid and walking on eggshells. That's quote, "Is it fair to call everyone who comes through your program an addict just because you want to be their savior?" Jones said. She labeled me an addict as well. She had me go through a 12-step program for control. It's yeah, it sounds like look, if you can sell an answer to a problem, you can sell anything. And if you can sell an easy answer to a complex problem that works for a little bit, that's genius. But she's not selling answers that really work. Jones was told to write down every way she used her addiction, which she was unable to do. She felt like the diagnosis was too abstract. Still, she had to call people in the women's group about her supposed problem. Alyssa Tibbetts, 19, said she was treated by Hildebrandt at the same time her brother was in 2018. She said Hildebrandt diagnosed her with control addiction when she was 13 in the program or in the children's group at the time. She was eventually put into a 12-step program for lying addiction because she wrote secret notes to her neighbors and acquired a secret phone to watch Netflix. Well, the horror, the absolute horror. Tibbetts felt like she didn't have a lying problem when she tried explaining to herself. She said Hildebrandt would accuse herself of living in distortion or accuse her of living in distortion. When she was in the 12-step program, she was told to write down the ways she used her addiction. She also had to call the adult women in Hildebrandt's program to keep herself accountable. Holy Lord. Quote, "I never felt like any of them, especially Jody, was like a safe place to go for therapy," Tibbet said. I never felt safe. I always felt like I was getting attacked." She said Hildebrandt would often shame her and accuse her of being distorted if she said, quote, something that she perceived was as a lie or was, quote, not something completely compliant with her. Tibbetts made it through 4 steps before she moved in with her father, and they both stopped seeing Hildebrandt at the end of 2018. The Utah Division of Professional Licensing, as the agency is now known, said last week that Hildebrandt voluntarily surrendered her mental health counseling license on September 19th. Her license is still active but limited. She has not been formally disciplined by the DOPL, but she will be unable to practice if she's released from jail. Again, how is she still having a license at all? It I don't d d I want to see one marriage she saved. I would like one couple to come forward and say, "You know what? After speaking to Jody, we stayed together." That's the one thing I want to see. Good morning, Roseman Ranch. Quote, "Given the heinous abuse allegations, the agency felt that surrender of her license was the best course of action to protect the safety of Hildebrandt's patients and clients." Margaret Busey, executive director of the Utah Department of Commerce, said in a statement. Well, there you go. In sciencey news, NASA might have found intelligence or at least life on an asteroid, we hope. And my favorite candidate for president next year, giant asteroid. We might have, received news from his candidacy. So let's read up. NASA recovered a 250-gram dust sample from Bennu asteroid on Sunday, marking the first sample return of its kind in America, the agency said. The sample was collected by spacecraft OSIRIS REX. The capsule sent back to Earth by the spacecraft landed in Utah desert. Everything's happening in Utah, guys. At 10:52 a.m., NASA's recovery team delivered the capsule to nearby Department of Defense Utah Test and Training Range after about An hour and a half, NASA said in a press release. Quote, today marks an extraordinary milestone, not just for the OSIRIS REX team, but for science as a whole, Dante Loretta, principal investigator for the OSIRIS RX team, or REX team at the University of Arizona Tucson, said in a statement, successfully delivering samples from Bueno to Earth has been a triumph of collaborative ingenuity and testament to what we can accomplish when we unite with a common purpose. But let's not forget, while this may feel like the end of an incredible chapter, it is truly the beginning of another. We now have the unprecedented opportunity to analyze these samples and delve deeper into the secrets of our solar system. Yeah, well, Kaiser, I mean, honestly, could it really never mind, I'm not gonna tempt fate, but, well, at least we have at least we'll know where it started. The sample is being kept under a nitrogen purge connected to a continuous flow of nitrogen to keep it pure of earthly contaminants. 4 helicopters were dispatched to the landing site. The capsule reached temperatures of up to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit during reentry, so protective masks and gloves were required to handle it. It traveled at speeds of up to 27,650 miles an hour, and flight operations were managed by Lockheed Martin Space. Well, I'm glad they didn't fly, an F-37 or F-35 to go get it because they might have lost it. Uh, Quote, "Congratulations to the OSIRIS REX team on picture perfect mission, the first American asteroid sample return in history, which will deepen our understanding of the origin of our solar system and its formation," Bill Nelson, and NASA administrator, said in a statement, quote, "Not to mention, Bueno is a potentially hazardous asteroid, and we will learn from the sample. What we learned from the sample will help us better understand what type of asteroids could come our way." So there we go. I mean, since Bruce Willis is unfortunately probably unable to save us again, we will need to save ourselves. And, you know, Ben Affleck has been Jennifer Lopez again. We will need to train another group of No, so what happened is I can't remember how they retrieved the dust from this asteroid. I think they sent a projectile and collected the dust from the projectile or something. Anyway, they collected dust from this asteroid, brought it back to Earth. So the asteroid didn't hit the Earth. It just they just brought some dust back to Earth. So that's how that went. Let's see. In Dad's Behaving Badly, a drunk Ohio dad was arrested at son's homecoming dance. So while I may have embarrassed my middle daughter by taking photographs of her that were not professional, because who hires professional photographer? Look, I'm not going to get into this. Some families do. She got professional photos taken. I didn't have to pay for them. So we're all good in the hood, but still. A drunk Ohio dad was arrested for trying to come to his son's rescue at a homecoming dance after the teen was involved in an altercation. So it was an all good in the family shenanigans. Steve Stevens, uh, 43, was taken into custody Saturday after ignoring orders from school resource officer holding his 18-year-old son and others in custody while awaiting Anderson High School's official to dole out punishments to the bickering teens, Fox 19 reported. The officer at the scene said that while he was waiting for an assistant principal to arrive, an intoxicated Stevens confronted him and tried to take his son away. Quote, Stephen was demanding the officer, explain why his son was being illegally detained, the arrest report read. Stevens continued to demand that he take his son, so I told him he needed to leave. Okay. When Stevens refused to go, the officer said he tried to escort the dad away from the school building, but he still refused to go. The officer noted that Stevens' breath smelled of alcohol and his speech was slurred. The officer then wrestled Stevens to the floor and arrested him at the school, according to the criminal complaint. Well, you know, it's NASA. Oh, which brings me to a funny story time from NASA because as I was putting this story in last night, my youngest, most feral, just watched the Martian movie with Matt Damon, and he said, "NASA is so dumb." And I was like, "Okay, why do you think NASA is so dumb?" And he said, "Well, they left this guy on Mars for like 100 million days." And I said, "Well, that's a movie." And he said, "Nuh-uh." And I said, "Okay, well, why do you think that?" And he said, "Well, there were real people." And I said, "Well, but those are actors." And he said, "No, they are real. I saw them on TV. I saw them on the TV, and he had a real space suit. Explain that." And I said, "Well, it's called a movie, and they're acting." And he said, "I saw real NASA." And I was like, "Oh my dear God, I am raising a lawyer." He had all of his points. He was like, "Okay, fine, fine. Point of contention, facts and evidence. He had a spacesuit." I was like, "Holy crapola." I have just realized my youngest, most feral Viking is a lawyer. Well, yes, but he's like, "They are so dumb. They left an astronaut," and he's like, "And the president was on there, and I saw them on the TVs, and it was in New York, and you are a liar." It's like it's like, "Sweetie, they play pretend. Those are actors." He was like, "Nuh-uh, I saw it." And then I realized I'm raising a lawyer. I was because he had a logical point to everything I was saying, and I realized, "Oh god, get him in debate club." Principal Kyle Fender said in a letter to parents that the arrest took place near a group of students waiting to be picked up from the dance. No staff members were involved in the incident, and it was handled by the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, which its building in um, provides the building its school resource officers. Due to the nature of the incident, we are limited in how much information we can share. Fender wrote, "The top priority of Anderson High School is to provide safe and secure information or environment to everyone." Stevens was booked in the Hamilton County Jail, charged with resisting arrest, criminal trespass, and disorderly conduct. He could not be reached for comment. I'm sure his wife was super, super excited. Yeah, yeah, I looked at Mr. Moe and I with terror in my eyes, and I said, "I'm raising a lawyer." He's never but he's good at math, so I was like, "We have hope." In other news, a brazen panty snatcher was caught on video stealing from a New York apartment video. I don't know or building. I don't know why this made it to the New York Post, but they thought it was very important. Uh, a brazen panty snatcher has been caught on camera repeatedly rifling through dryers in an apartment laundry room in Manhattan's upscale Upper East Side before making off with dozens of pairs of women's underpants. I thought that shoplifting was basically legal in New York and other places, so why not just get to go to Victoria's Secrets? I mean, why get used pairs? I mean, I'm asking questions. I know I'm asking questions. But I is confused. Uh, the unidentified creep was captured on surveillance cameras targeting the same apartment building on the East 63rd or 64th Street at least twice this month, videos obtained by the Post show. Disturbing footage showed the perp calmly walking into the laundry room of the building on September 5th before opening one of the running dryers, rummaging through it. He could be seen handpicking dozens of pairs of panties and stashing them in a black bag. Look, maybe his mother needed underpants, and he was like, "I am gonna get her classy underpants." And he was like, "These are the classiest I have n I." The sicker deal was only discovered after a female tenant returned to collect her laundry and noticed nearly all her underwear had bizarrely vanished. My super first thought I was crazy, but there are security cameras all over and we looked at the footage. Uh, the woman told the Post, adding, "The man doesn't live in the building." He didn't seem threatening, but extremely creepy to only be stealing underwear. When the perp suddenly showed up again on the 20th, he was immediately spotted by the building's maintenance man. It does. I mean, you guys, I cannot make sense of why this is news, but apparently he's going to get a beat down by a bunch of people in flip-flops. So I'm here for it. And oh my gosh, I think he has a tire iron. What the Wait a minute, I know why this is news now. Never mind. When the perp suddenly showed up again on September 20th, he was immediately spotted by the building's maintenance man. Surveillance videos showed the maintenance guy and the superintendent waiting to confront the panty snatcher as he emerged from the laundry. Wait a minute, you let him go through and rifle through another set of laundry before you chased him out? You're just boffing him, and another man walking his dog unsuccessfully tried to grab a hold of the perp's backpack before he fled, the footage shows. The female attendant said she never filed a police report because she wasn't sure the cops could do anything about it, but the building management has weighed putting the laundry room under lock and key. I hope this guy doesn't try another building now. I guess. I just well, that and I think we have one more. Let me see if we have I think we should be able to get through this one. Prosecutors drop murder case against man previously sentenced to life for shooting romantic rival in the head on a Georgia highway. So this gentleman reunited with his parents. Georgia parents, John and Cindy Watkins, have spent over 23 years maintaining that their son, Joseph Joey Samuel Watkins, then 20, was innocent of shooting Isaac Dawkins, 21, in the head. Quote, "Our son has been railroaded," end quote, the father said on the day his son was sentenced to life in prison on July 20 or 20 2001. I keep wanting to say 2021. I know, it's my favorite German word. Only the Germans would think of that word too. Uh, according to the Rome News Tribune, quote, "We will be back in court and this will be proven." They have been vindicated more than 2 decades later. First, Walker County Superior Court Judge Don Thompson overturned the conviction in April 2022 and ordered a new trial after the defense argued both juror and prosecutorial misconduct. A decision the state Supreme Court affirmed last December. Now, the district attorney's office in Rome Judicial Circuit has passed up on a second bite of the apple, filing on Thursday to drop the case altogether. Quote, "All the weight has been lifted," Joey Watkins said in a new statement from the Georgia Innocence Project, which had taken up the case. "I can't begin to express what I feel like right now. I'm finally an adult. I'm free." Oh, I'm so sorry. I Get some rest. I hope that you can get some rest and feel better, and hopefully we can provide some entertainment while you are, healing and, just honor your body and rest. That's the hardest thing I've been doing this week is not doing, which sounds crazy, but for, people that are generally used to just pushing through and not slowing down, that is difficult. I'm so sorry. Kaiser, I need you to explain all of Ahsoka to me because the things that I am seeing are all of the counterfusing. Let's see. But as far as the law is concerned, Dawkins' killer is still out there and justice remains unfulfilled for his family. In 2001, his father, Sammy Dawkins, thanks prosecutors and detective for the convictions that landed Watkins with a life sentence plus 5 years. Quote, "We would like to thank everyone for their prayers, but most of all, we thank God," he said at the time, according to the News Tribune. Someone shot and killed Dawkins as he was driving on Highway 27 on the evening of January 12th, 11, 2000. He crashed into the near woods. Investigators discovered through x rays that he had a bullet in the head. Police in the city of Rome eyed Joey Watkins as a suspect. According to the GIP, Watkins admitting to driving past the wreck scene on that night, and he and Dawkins had each dated the same girl on separate occasions and argued over her. Rome police, however, ruled him out as a suspect. Quote, "After months with little progress on the case, the victim's family successfully petitioned to have Sergeant Stanley Sutton of the Floyd Police Department take over the case," the GPI said. Although a very similar shooting had occurred a few miles away of within minutes of when the police first received reports of Isaac's accident, and although Joey had an alibi, Sutton zeroed in on Joey Watkins. One day after taking over the case, the Floyd County Police Department posted $10,000 reward posters throughout the jail. The first jailhouse informant came forward within hours. Authorities eventually charged Watkins and his friend Mark Free in Dawkins' murder. The same attorneys represented both men and argued that cell phone evidence showed Watkins wasn't even at the scene of the murder, and that the state's case was pretty much only against him and not Free, who didn't even know Dawkins, according to the News Tribune. In several separate trials, jurors acquitted Free after less than an hour of deliberation, but Watkins landed in prison for what looked to be the rest of his life after being convicted of felony murder, aggravated assault, and a weapons violation and misdemeanor stalking. Quote, "I had nothing to do with it, nothing," he said in a tearful, emotional statement to the court, according to the News Tribune, "and I will say that till the day I die." The situation started to change after a true crime podcast, quote, or undisclosed, covered his case and suggested that the prosecution's version of events would have been impossible based on cell phone evidence. Quote, "I've never heard a coherent version of this to explain how Joey did the murder," end quote, said Susan Simpson, a co producer of the show, according to the Atlanta NBC affiliate WXIA in 2017 report. Quote, "There were glaring issues in the state's theory. One issue was that the man who witnessed the accident explained to the police he saw a smaller, older, model blue car interacting aggressively on the road with Isaac's truck in the moments before the wreck," end quote, the GIP wrote in a statement about the case. The night of the murder, however, Joey had driven his white pickup truck to see his girlfriend, Aslyn, who lived about 30 miles away in Cedartown, Georgia. He passed Isaac's wreck in the police car on the way. He was seen by several witnesses departing in his white truck, and approximately 45 minutes later, several other witnesses saw him in Cedartown in his white truck. Tammy Colson, the case's district attorney who ended up becoming a superior court judge, essentially dismissed it all. "I have no comment to this," she told WXIA in the 2017 report. "I have not listened to the podcast, read anything about it, nor do I intend to. I will not comment. That is that it is the victim we should be memorializing, who was a fine young man with a fine family who suffers his loss every day." Lee Patterson, the district attorney for Rome Judicial Circuit, declined to comment when Law and Crime reached out on Monday. The GIP, who picked up Watson's case, argued there was newly discovered juror and prosecutorial conduct. Quote, "In 2017, Watson's filed this second state habeas petition raising claims of juror misconduct and concealment by the state of exculpatory evidence. First, he alleged that a jury, contrary to trial court's explicit instructions not to visit the scenes or conduct timed drive experiments, conducted just such an experiment. Second, he alleged that the state failed to reveal exculpatory evidence to him and allowed a witness to testify that such evidence did not exist," said a ruling from the state Supreme Court, which remanded Watkins' case to a habeas court in 2020, paving the way for him to argue his claims of juror and official misconduct. Watson's and his Georgia Innocence Project team celebrated the dropped case at the Harvest Moon Cafe in Rome. "I can't tell you how good I feel," he said in the statement released Friday. "Do you know how many times I drove by and looked at these windows and thought one day I'll be able to sit in there, have a beer, and actually relax? Well, that day is here, and I'm so grateful." So, there you go. Finally, you know, some people are held to account for gross misconduct once in a while. Jonathan, I hope that you are feeling better, and we will get everything. Yeah, if you start to feel worse, I know as the world's most stubborn person and, do what I say, not as I do. Well, I don't have a subscription. Yeah, that's kind of what I've heard from, oh gosh, Disparu. Yeah, I and space whales. Space whales. I thought that was only gonna be a joke in Futurama, but of course, space whales. Well, that is all for Mornings with Mo and no Fry because the boys are home and Fry, well, I mean, if you were a puppy and you had to sit down and be still or play with wild feral boys, what would you do? I would. Well, I mean, Walmart, it's Georgia. It's yeah, it's it's hot, it's muggy, it is what it is. Yeah, keep popping up in chat, let us know that you're feeling okay. Rest, be take a couple days off, if things start getting worse, do go to the hospital. We care about you here. We don't want you getting any worse. We don't want you feeling any worse. All right, guys, I am going to take a little break so I can go outside and make sure that Fry does his business outside instead of inside. And then I will be hopping on with Nicholas and we will be doing the not arrest of Richard Allen today on our Delphi case. And then around two, I will be starting with the state's closing statements and of the Gareth Pursehouse case. And then I will be jumping on with Excited and Sal for a little bit as they do the defense. And we hopefully get to the state's rebuttal. It will depend on if I stay the whole time, if the weather is good, or if we actually go to this party because it is an outside party and it's Indiana. We have no idea and we can't control weather. So have a great day. I will see you in a couple minutes. Bye, guys.